Let me just get this one out the way for you SCP lovers out there. I got so many SCP lovers on the channel. Love you guys. Anyways, been getting messages that my videos have not been popping up, so if you can comment, share the videos, throw them all over the internet, do what you gotta do. Shout out to Dr. Bob, and let's hop into SCP-513 A Cowbell. Sending out a lot of love, and as always, hope you guys enjoy. Let's go.
It's the grisliest crime scene the detective has seen in years. Photographers wince as they capture it all in a succession of...
Funny enough about the cowbell, I do know the cowbell. The cowbell is one of the original SCPs, I'm pretty sure, because I remember playing the game, and like, I think you ring this shit and pretty much it spells your death. So.
Quick, stark flashes. CSI technicians do what they can to pick up the broken pieces. Posted at the gate, a rookie doubles over and throws up, while his older partner gives him a sympathetic pat on the back. He can't hide his own discomfort at the things they've seen today. The call came in the middle of the night from a pair of concerned hikers on the outskirts of town. They were halfway through their...
I wouldn't be able to work at the Foundation in general unless you had me with something that was really safe. Like, not just that had the class or the, the category safe, because not all those shits are safe, but for the most part, safe, bro. And I never had to come in contact with the crazy anomalies.
Their nightly walk down an old country road when they heard screaming from a nearby farm. When officers finally made their way down to the farmhouse, it was too late. Everyone there was dead. Nobody to save. All that's left to do is pick up the pieces and figure out what the hell actually happened. The detective leans under a yellow garland of crime scene tape and asks an attending officer what they know so far. The cop, who looks pale and clammy, swallows over a lump in his throat and says, "Looks like the old farmer snapped and went postal. Whole family's dead.
Went postal?
Found his body in the barn." He heads inside to take a look at the carnage. It's a veritable house of horrors. The farmer's wife is dead in the kitchen. The children were both murdered in their beds. The detective can't say he's ever seen a murder done in such cold blood. So detached. For a man with no history of violence to do something so terrible to his loved ones for no reason. The detective shakes his head and walks upstairs, sliding on rubber gloves to avoid contaminating.
Oh my gosh, it's the Amityville horror, but with a cowbell.
The scene. He goes room to room, making fastidious notes about anything suspicious. He's got a keen eye for this kind of thing. The man's a 20-year veteran of the force. He's seen some terrible things. But as he lays his eyes on the bodies of the victims, he can't help but feel a chill tiptoeing down his vertebrae. In the master bedroom, where the now-deceased farmer and his wife once shared a loving marital bed, he hits some pay dirt, a diary in the bedside cabinet. He flips through. Early on, it's all mundane, scattered thoughts for the day at hand, and little to-do lists for the next one. But the last 3 entries contain a marked shift from what came before. The first one reads, "He seemed shook up when he came back from the barn today. He's awful quiet about it. Said something like, 'I heard something I shouldn't have.' In the barn? Don't know what that could mean, but I decided not to press. Stressed enough already. He didn't say much to the kids during dinner. Kept looking over his shoulder. Freaked me out something terrible.
Literally, it's that.
I don't know what did it, but whatever it was, it put a scare in him." The second reads, "I'm starting to worry about him. It's been a few days since whatever he heard in the barn, and he ain't gotten any better. In fact, I think he's getting worse. He won't shower. Something about the bathroom mirror, he just won't go in there. He hasn't been eating. Worst of all, he doesn't sleep. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and see him sitting bolt upright, staring at the bedroom door, not saying a word, not even blinking." The third and final entry reads, "This ain't the man I married anymore. There's something wrong with him. It's scaring the kids and it's scaring me. He started bringing his gun to bed every night. Doesn't sleep, just sits there with it. He never sleeps."
Okay, because the SCPs can get wild and wacky, I'm going to go out on an assumption here and think that when you ring the cowbell, it's, you know, a weird thing too is I pause it at the top, like the SCP's number backwards. But I'm going to go out here on an assumption and think that if you hear the cowbell ring or it's rung, that it's just some massive, bulky, testosterone-filled cow that keeps telling you in your dreams it's coming for you. Just get ready. So that's why he can't sleep. Because this massive, roided-out cow is coming for his life. There's something I was just looking for that I thought to just look for, but I don't know what it was. I guess it'll come back to me. Let's continue.
When I asked him what's happening, he told me something's coming.
Something's coming,
But it's okay. He won't let it get us no matter what. I don't understand. I'm gonna take the kids and go stay with Mom for a few weeks while he works this out.
I was about to say that. Why
I'm
don't you
afraid
just
of
do
what
this?
he'll do if he realizes.
Now just
His
go.
gun is always loaded. The detective sighs and slides the diary into an evidence baggie.
He
It
stopped
was,
reading?
sadly, a tale he'd heard all too many times. The
Oh,
terrible
farted.
things we can do to the ones we love when we're not ourselves. Though it now seems cut and dry, a mental break snowballing into a massacre, one detail is still gnawing at the detective.
What was
What
coming?
did the farmer hear in the barn that day? When the detective enters, he orders everyone else to leave. He needs some time alone in here. As the people file out, he approaches the farmer's corpse. He's laying in the straw, head a bloody mess, bludgeoned beyond recognition. And yet, he's the one holding the blood-stained hammer. And in his other hand, he's clutching something even stranger. A rusty old cowbell.
Oh, don't ring
Of
it.
all the things to be holding in your last moments on Earth, the detective thinks as he reaches over. Something about the bell draws his eye. Why, after murdering his entire family, would a man head out into the barn and, presumably, try and fail to hammer a cowbell to pieces? As he picks up the bell, he runs his gloved fingers along the rust.
Oh, no.
Other than the wear and tear of age, the bell shows no signs of actual damage. It's such a strange, innocuous object. What's the significance? His internal musing is interrupted when a large spider, the kind that like to make their homes in straw-filled barns, suddenly crawls out from inside the bell
and it
and
makes
onto the
him
detective's hand.
ring the bell?
He drops the bell, an involuntary shock reflex, and it hits the
no.
ground with a brassy gong. The sound lingers in the air for far longer than it should. It seems almost like it's getting louder. The detective feels his heartbeat speeding up, his breath's getting heavy and labored. The sound gets louder.
No,
It feels
I
like
knew,
someone is sitting on his
man.
chest. He falls to his knees,
I
scratching
literally immediately, and it's maybe because I already know about the cowbell, but I don't exactly know what happens. But when the spider came, that's so unfortunate, and I feel like that's one of the anomalous properties of the bell is it would get somebody to drop it. And I think this SCP, as I was talking about it in the beginning, would classify as safe, unfortunately. But it's like because you kind of have to be dumb enough to ring it or, accidental like that. But as soon as the spider went on his arm, I was like, oh my gosh, I would just honestly put the bell down. See, because I've had a bee on my shirt before, and I carried it all the way back inside as a kid because I was scared to my grandma, and I did not move an inch. I was so steady that I did not freak the bee out to leave my shirt. I don't know why it stuck to my shirt. It was crazy. Don't know what it smelled, but I literally walked upstairs so careful, and I was like not to disturb this bee. And so, man, if a spider jumped out on the cowbell, I would have put the cowbell down so swiftly and soft that, man, you wouldn't even have heard the cowbell touch the floor.
at his swelling throat. His heart pounds.
Damn.
Is he having a heart
This
attack?
is unfortunate.
He claws at the dirt and straw beneath him, trying desperately to get a handle on things as the world around him seems to go dark. The toll of the cowbell gets louder and louder. Eventually, he's able to force out a scream, then collapses to the ground. When his eyes open, he's being carted away on a stretcher to a nearby ambulance, parked just outside the crime scene. When a paramedic asks him if he's okay, the only thing he can stutter out through his dry mouth is, "Don't touch the bell. Don't let anyone touch the bell." The doctor who treats him will later tell him there are no signs of any physical ailment. In all likelihood, the detective had experienced a severe anxiety attack. When the detective tells the doctor that he has no history of anxiety attacks and that this is far from the first violent crime scene he's encountered, the doctor purses his lips and knits his brow in concentration. "Very strange," the doctor says. "Perhaps just take it easy for the next few days. Work stress can sneak up on a person, especially in a career as high stakes as yours. It can sometimes manifest in rather strange ways." That night, the detective is at home, brewing himself a soothing cup of herbal tea on his doctor's recommendation. He's still racked by a strange uneasiness from earlier in the day. You see, one of the keys to being a good detective is pattern recognition. You're able to detect obscure links between pieces of information that other people, in the stress of the moment, may not correlate. As the detective sips his tea,
I might be a
he
good
remembers
detective.
the first entry in the farmer's wife's diary. When the farmer's downward spiral started, it began with him hearing something he shouldn't have inside the barn. The detective doesn't know a lot about what happened to himself in that barn either, but he can safely say he heard something he shouldn't have heard too. He sighs. No point in psyching himself out like this. After all, it's just the post-attack jitters, and turns to his kitchen window, hoping to look out at the night sky and feel a little more at peace. Instead, he sees something out of a nightmare. A tall figure standing behind him, somewhere in the ballpark of human, but also somehow not. It's tall, fleshy, and emaciated. Its face is too smooth, with bulging eyes and a large mouth being the only features.
No.
It reaches for him with huge, spindle-fingered hands, mere centimeters away from the back of his head. But the second it sees him looking at it, it turns and begins to run. The detective's mug falls and shatters on the ground. He turns with an involuntary yelp to track the creature, but it's already gone. His kitchen is empty and silent. Of course, one question haunts his mind. What the hell just happened? He's no fool. He knows the mind can play funny tricks on you. After all, who hasn't seen something out of the corner of their eye that gave them a momentary fright before realizing that it was just a trick of the imagination? But this was...
First of all, that's not always true, remember. There are actually beings that hide in the corner of your eyes. Like the corner of your vision.
Wasn't just a flicker playing on a paranoid mind. The detective would swear on his mother's life that he truly saw this thing, some bizarre humanoid monster standing behind him in his reflection. He doesn't know which possibility scares him more, that there really was something behind him, or that he's starting to lose his mind. Either offered a number of frightening possibilities. But
thanks for this recommendation, guys. This is fire.
The detective does what he does best.
I never knew the original
logic to a situation.
Story of it.
He'd spent the day around a particularly distressing crime scene, read something unnerving in the diary of one of the victims, and suffered a panic attack in the barn. All of this was just a suggestion implanted in his mind, connections being threaded where they shouldn't, a natural side effect of a brain wired to register patterns in strange data clusters. The detective does his best to remain calm for the rest of the evening. Fear is the mind killer. Panic only ever makes a situation worse. These are both things he believes, but he can't seem to shake that creeping feeling of dread. He's being watched. For the first time in his adult life, the detective decides he doesn't want to sleep in the dark. All those shapes in the blackness put him on edge. He thinks that a good night's sleep will probably have him right as rain by tomorrow morning. Everything passes eventually. As his mind drifts and his eyes begin to flutter closed, he starts to wonder if he always left that bathroom door open.
That's what I was about to say.
Whether it started to open very slowly as soon as his head hit the pillow.
That's what I was about to say.
Sure enough, he wakes up gasping. Long, cold fingers, abnormally long in fact, and cold as death, have closed around his throat. He's gasping in vain for breath as the hand clamps tighter. His eyes jolt open, and he sees it again, that tall, thin monster lingering over him, strangling him. Its face is split into a wide, sadistic, tooth-bearing grin. For something so thin, it's impossibly strong. The detective can't move, he can't scream, he can't do anything. But as he slips from sleep to true wakefulness, the monster is gone. It wafts out of the room with all the ease of a gust of wind. He sits up.
Oh my gosh, this reminds me so much of having, well, if none of you have had a night terror, I'm sure we've all had a night terror, but sleep paralysis. I had chronic sleep paralysis. Man, I'm so glad I grew out of it. Or I managed to handle it. I mean, over time, like, see, they don't train you for things like this, but over time you become like a lucid dreamer, or you just end up having to take your power back, but your mind gets so fed up with these creatures thinking they could fuck with you that you end up just like strengthening your subconscious mind or something. But I got to the point where I don't even have those shits anymore. And I don't even pride myself on this a lot, but I'm actually getting this fire in me right now of being so proud of myself because, I remember these things, like, there's nothing more scary than sleep paralysis, and that was kind of like that. 100% like that. Wake up, cold sweat, nuts. I remember night after night having them, like, back to back, to where there were some days I'd be in them dreams, like, mouth closed, freaking struggling, talking about I'm gonna kill you. Like, I had to turn into something vicious to, like, scare the things that were trying to scare me. And it was funny. It was like, it's partially real entities you're dealing with, and then partially your imagination strengthening it. So depending on how strong your imagination is, like when you think about them torture artists or something, like those shits can be the worst. But I don't think there's anything scarier anything, maybe like, I don't even know if people have mass shooting dreams or mass like apocalypse dreams. I don't think there's anything worse than sleep paralysis. It's the worst, bro. The worst.
Heart pounding, lungs strained,
Terrifying.
skin slick with sweat. He's never been so afraid in his life. He's been calmer during the active shootouts of his beat days all those years ago. The thing that was strangling him, it looked exactly the same as the monster from the reflection. They weren't just similar. It was exactly the same thing. Is he being stalked? Then it dawns on him. Another fragment of information swimming in the mess of his consciousness. An article he'd read a couple years before about a phenomenon known as sleep paralysis. It's when people suddenly wake up during REM sleep. Their body remains paralyzed while their consciousness activates, giving them one foot in reality while leaving the other in a nightmare. In this state, people can believe they're being attacked by monsters or demons.
No, they are.
And one of the major factors causing sleep paralysis?
You are.
Stress. The detective sighs.
No.
He feels like an idiot. There's nothing he's experienced today that doesn't have a completely logical explanation. So why does he keep...
Always that. It's always that. And see, I think the SCP Foundation, or like the whole thing, is a cool thing to dip into the mystery of things, but that's the problem. People write stuff off so quickly as, oh, it's stress, or oh, it's this, and it's no. There is a spiritual world that is there a side of this, bro. It's not the imagination creating a collectively, like there's the so most people share this in sleep paralysis, the whole the tall man in a top hat thing. And it's even like, it makes me think about like the Babadook. Like, even if you think about that, it's like, okay, so why is that? If we're a collective consciousness, then that kind of proves that there's like a spiritual world to this. That's why I hate that it's always written off as stress or something like that, because spiritual shit is scientific. So it's like, it's just funny. But how does everyone collectively see the same thing in sleep paralysis? Why do we all imagine a tall, dark trench coat, top hat figure coming in? It's the weirdest shit. That's why Little Nightmares was crazy with that. When the dude became the tall man, man, I was like, bro, that's insane, because literally everyone who has sleep paralysis has at least once, and I could be wrong, but most of the people I've talked to, and this could be just a coincidence of finding people just like you who have the same stories, or resonate with the same stories. Everyone, even there was a girl whose friend, her kids, she was telling me how her kids even seen like this in sleep paralysis. They see like a tall man, top dark hat, and we all seen it as kids. It's the weirdest shit. So you can't explain everything. That every phenomenon, bro, cannot be explained.
Keep jumping to such absurd conclusions. Twisting
like
facts to suit theories rather than theories to suit facts.
But how he is right here is exactly why I said I think I'd be a good detective, because I was like this for a while. Hella logical, hella analytical, still like that, but I leave my mind more open to concepts and things that, wouldn't shock me, because there's things I've seen that like I can't even begin to describe, and it's just like, can't apply logic to everything.
That being said, he still doesn't sleep another wink that night. He pours himself a few cups of coffee, subconsciously avoiding anything reflective, and sits in bed until sunrise, just watching his bedroom door. Better safe than sorry, he keeps repeating in the empty corridors of his addled brain.
He's not
He
wrong.
drives to work the next morning like he always does. Sitting at a stoplight, a car pulls up next to him, and he catches something in the reflection of the car's window. It's that monster again, sitting next to him, reaching out towards him with one of its huge hands. The detective gasps and spins around, his eyes flaring with panic. But of course, it isn't there. Just some children on the sidewalk on their way to school. Maybe it's the fear, maybe it's the sleep deprivation, maybe it's both. But in that moment, he feels like crying. Little does he know, things are going to get so much worse.
Oof.
Over the following days, the frequency of the sightings increases. Anytime he finds his eyes meeting a reflective surface, that monster is there, approaching him. But of course, it runs away before he can ever look at it head on. The people at work keep giving him funny looks. He grits his teeth. He can't say anything. If he tells anyone what's been happening to him, they'll haul him off to the funny farm to spend the rest of his life in a padded cell. But he knows he's not crazy. It's too real to be the product of human insanity. This isn't some hallucination. That thing is really there. It's always waiting, always watching. Even when he can't see it, he can feel its eyes on him. sense its malicious intent. It's even worse at night. Every time he tries to sleep, it attacks him. He feels its hand clasping around his throat. He feels its balled fists pummeling his body. He feels its long fingernails scratching into his skin. He can't sleep anymore. He's too scared.
I don't
And
know
that
why that
too
was
takes
funny.
its toll. Every feeling, every emotion, every thought starts to take on an odd, flat quality, like nothing is quite real. He starts to subsist on coffee, energy drinks, and anything else that will give him a buzz of alertness. He started to carry his service pistol around with him everywhere. He hides it under his pillow at night. He can never be too careful. He knows that the creature is always out there, always watching, always waiting. He knows on some level that it won't stop until it has taken everything from him. He's taking the subway to work again. He's messy, disoriented. His clothes stink. His bloodshot eyes are couched in unsightly bags. He shivers slightly, a nervous twitch. Put simply, he's not the man he used to be. He can't drive anymore. His nerves are too wrecked, and he has to take the bus to and from work. That's when he sees it, not behind him this time, but on the other side of the street as he waits for his bus. It stands among the other pedestrians, all seemingly oblivious to its presence. It just smiles, mocking him. This time, the detective is ready. The detective won't have it.
Oh,
In a
no,
single
no, no.
fluid motion, he unholsters his pistol and begins firing at the creature.
Oh my god.
The street erupts into screams as people scatter to avoid the frantic volley of gunshots, but the creature doesn't move. It just keeps grinning as the detective fires, the rage and sleep deprivation throwing off his aim. He hears the sound of the bell again, its toll rising. It's deafening. He needs to kill it. He needs to get closer. The detective walks toward the creature, firing bullet after bullet. The creature doesn't care. He roars in animal fury. The bell toll rises. A sudden light illuminates the creature's terrible smile, as the detective realizes that the sound he's hearing isn't the toll of the bell at all. He turns just in time to see the bus, but not in enough time to get out of the way. The cowbell the detective found in the barn that day seemed innocuous enough, but this old cowbell,
This is
corroded and covered in rust, which no
SCP-513.
known methods, chemical or mechanical, seemed to be able to remove, would soon have a name: SCP-513. It was discovered by an SCP Foundation agent during Containment Reestablished Procedure Mu at a classified containment site, where its interior was covered in duct tape to prevent it from properly making a sound.
I was just
There was
thinking about
also a
that.
paper note attached reading, "You've seen it. Now he can hear you. You've touched it. Now he can see you. Never ring it. If you hear it, he can touch you."
What the fuck?
And this is a warning worth heeding, because ringing SCP-513 invariably results in death. The question is just how much mental and physical anguish it puts its victim through before that endpoint. When the bell is first rung, anyone within earshot will begin to experience extreme anxiety, including physical symptoms such as heightened heart rate and raised blood pressure. They will also report feelings of dread and may claim that they can feel themselves being watched. Within about an hour, this worry is confirmed. SCP-513-1 is the less than charming creature hounding the unfortunate bell ringer, and will begin to stalk the affected individuals. It will appear to approach individuals from behind, but quickly disappear if ever the subject attempts direct visual contact. It will
That's
also
horrible.
stage non-lethal physical attacks on its victims during their sleep in order to induce greater levels of psychological terror, though it disappears quickly upon waking. The stalking threat will only elevate over time, leading to increased psychological disarray for the victim. SCP-513-1 will eventually induce paranoia, aggression, hypervigilance, and depression, ending in a distressing and violent death. Because of the immense danger posed to anyone who hears the sound of this cowbell tolling, SCP-513 has been given extensive containment precautions, extensive enough to warrant giving it the Euclid containment class,
Oh, it's Euclid.
classification
Never
reserved
mind.
for things that are often unpredictable in containment. SCP-513 is suspended in a 1 cubic meter block of gelatin and contained within a soundproofed, climate-controlled cell. The gelatin is inspected daily for any degradation or loss of integrity. An emergency inspection is carried out immediately following any earthquake, explosion, or sonic event grade 2 or higher. Personnel performing the inspection wear earplugs and active noise-canceling earmuffs at all times while inside SCP-513's cell to avoid any kind of accidental exposure. If the gelatin cube shows any signs of degradation, such as rips, tears, splits, liquefaction, or mold, SCP-513 will be immediately removed and suspended within a replacement cube by a team of surgically deafened Class D personnel. No other personnel are to enter the cell during this procedure. Any sentient beings exposed to SCP-513 are to be monitored by at least 2 security personnel at all times. Under absolutely no circumstances may exposure victims be administered sedatives or allowed to fall unconscious. Any victim who does fall unconscious is to be terminated immediately. Class D personnel are to be terminated at the first sign of mental degradation. All other exposure victims may be terminated at their request. If possible, SCP-513-1 is to be apprehended on site, but sadly, the Foundation hasn't managed to get their hands on this unpleasant creature yet. But be careful ringing any mysterious old bells you find, or else he might just get his hands on you. Now go and watch another entry from the files of Dr. Bob,
What
like
the heck is
SCP-4975. Time's up
4975?
for another terrifying anomaly that'll pursue you to your last breath. And make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single anomaly as we delve.
I'll do this video right here for a bonus one for you guys if you want. But that one was solid. The cowbell. That's the story behind the cowbell, huh? That's nutty. I was not thinking that was gonna be like it was that in depth of what happens. I think it was in the game, right? I can't remember. Maybe I'm just completely lying. I'm pretty sure the cowbell was in the game though. Maybe it's something else. Oh man, that was a good one. That was interesting. I'm sitting here, you guys. This is the type of person I am. I'm sitting here thinking about all the ways I could beat this anomaly, bro. That is literally what I'm thinking about. I'm sitting here thinking about if I have the mental willpower to just troll the creature. And then I was like, you know what? It'd be crazy if I just ended up being an anomaly myself. I was fucking SCP-513-2 or -1, the first survivor of hearing the cowbell. And I was tasked with having to take care of the cowbell. I was the only one that the creature feared. And I was able to bring it. I was able to have it manifest itself physically in reality, and we were able to catch it. Oh man. I was sitting here going off, living a whole other story in my head as Dr. Bob was, giving the rest of the rundown of the story. This really sucks for the detective, man. He was living a good old life, and then he fell to the bell. He fell to the bell. Bro, what blew my mind is they keep this shit suspended in gelatin, and they don't have it duct taped. I'd have it, first of all, my containment would be insane. I would duct tape it. I would fill it with like make a little batch of like liquid cement, hold the bell upside down, fill it with liquid cement, and then suspend it in gelatin. If the duct tape was like, I don't know if there was nothing in this video. Excuse me. Dr. Bob usually kills it on details, right guys? So there was no saying about, technically it would be like, what do you call, like when they ask you to terminate an SCP, that would technically terminate it right there, like basically encasing the whole thing in like a concrete cube. If they deemed it like, oh, this is too unnecessary to keep, like, because I feel like gelatin, like why would you keep it in gelatin? And then if there's any degradation, you have to, I feel like that's just to make the story more interesting almost in a way, because I feel like concrete would completely put this out of commission. I would think that would be cool too if there was just like them trying to consistently find ways to just terminate the SCPs. But I feel like they keep these SCPs like a freaking museum, so what's the point? But anyways, much love and moonlight. I'm gonna go check out this one by myself. This one right here, I'm gonna record it for y'all, but I'm gonna go check it out because this one's interesting. It just looks terrifying, man. So yeah, we're gonna go check that out. All right, see you in the next one. Remember what I said in the beginning? Peace.